Hi, we are Group 8 and this is our final project presentation on PepsiCo's Mexico International Public Relations Campaign.
So for some background on PepsiCo. PepsiCo Incorporated is one of the largest beverage companies in the world with products in over 200 countries and is headquartered in Harrison, New York. The first Pepsi beverage was made in 1898 in Caleb Bradham's drugstore. It was made with a mix of sugar, water, caramel, lemon oil, nutmeg, and cola nuts. Later, Pepsi began purchasing restaurant chains and more products such as Tropicana and Dole Juice. Pepsi's main goal in the 21st century was to focus on expanding to other countries. It has now generated more than $67 billion in net revenue and is one of the world's leading food and beverage companies. Pepsi's mission statement is create more smiles with every sip and every bite, and it has been divided into 5 categories. For consumers, by creating joyful moments through our delicious and nourishing products and unique brand experiences. For customers, by being the best possible partner driving game-changing innovation and delivering a level of growth unmatched in our industry. For associates and communities, by creating meaningful opportunities to work, gain new skills, and build successful careers and a diverse and inclusive workspace. For planet, by conserving nature's precious resources and fostering a more sustainable planet for our children and grandchildren. And for shareholders, by delivering sustainable top-tier TSR and embracing best-in-class corporate governance. The vision statement is be the global leader in convenient foods and beverages by winning with purpose. And to advance the vision, the company plans on becoming faster, stronger, and better. And for Pepsi's values are that it is committed to delivering sustained growth through empowered people, acting responsibly, and building trust. This statement shed light on specific values of the company, which are sustained growth, empowered people, responsibility, and trust.
Next, we will be discussing the SWOT analysis of the company. As for strength, PepsiCo obtains a diverse brand portfolio, brand recognition, strong distribution network, and its ability to remain focused on innovation and customer-oriented products. The company's greatest strength involves its multinational branding. Due to its great advertising, the company received $1 billion or more in retail sales for each brand. With a massive presence in the international market, Pepsi can be easily recognized by almost every consumer. Pepsi's strong distribution network is in regards to the company, making sure its products are reaching every destination it is sold at. Pepsi has strengthened its innovation capabilities by running research centers in 9 different countries to continue developing nutritious products. As for weakness, Pepsi struggles with health-conscious consumers. Their limited business portfolio, sole focus on the food industry, and failed products. Most of Pepsi's revenue comes from its carbonated beverages and chips, which are not necessarily the healthiest compared to other options. This has led to the drop in sales now that the market is aware of the health factors that come from their foods and drinks. This company struggles with its limited business capabilities within the food and beverage atmosphere, which can hurt them in the long run. Pepsi's failed products, Pepsi Gold, Pepsi Blue, and Crystal Pepsi, have hurt its brand image and has affected its revenue. Lastly, its sole focus on the food industry does not allow the company to grow and gain more revenue compared to other competitors that are branching out. Pepsi's opportunities consist of product diversification, alliances and partnerships, and additions to flavors. With 22 brands, Pepsi serves various products such as sodas, chips, and more, just under the same singular industry. The company already has partnerships with Nestle and Starbucks, and adding more partnerships will allow Pepsi to grow more. Lastly, the addition of flavors will allow them to bring in more customers. The last topic involved in the SWOT analysis are threats. Pepsi's threats include stiff competition, economic recession, and government laws and regulation. The food and beverage industry is highly competitive, and while Pepsi is great with branding, their competitor Coca-Cola has similar product portfolios and marketing strategies. With signs of recessions occurring in today's market, Pepsi is most likely to be impacted in worse ways than better, especially since they are concentrated in only one market. There are various laws and regulations that require Pepsi to change the composition of products since it is not the healthiest.
Now for the history in the host country, which is Mexico, what our presentation is essentially about. It all began with 2 of PepsiCo's food and snack business lines, which are Sabritas and Gamesa, and these are headquartered in Mexico. Sabrita markets Frito-Lay products in Mexico. When it was brought up by PepsiCo, it began expanding. Sabritas is a brand which PepsiCo uses as the Frito-Lay products in Mexico. Some of these products include Cheetos, Fritos, and Doritos. Over the course of 100 years, Latin America has grown to become one of the strongest food and beverage manufacturers in the region.
Now to talk a little bit about Mexico and its political and economic environment, starting with the Freedom House Index. Mexico was ranked as 62 out of 100, which classifies them as partly free. A brief overview: Mexico has been an electoral democracy since 2000, but they do suffer from severe rule of law deficit that limit full citizen enjoyment of political rights and civil liberties, and violence also is perpetrated by organized criminals, corruption among government officials, human rights abuses by both state and non-state actors. Now to break down that 62 out of 100 a little bit, starting with political rights, Mexico has a 27 out of 40. Just to kind of dig a little bit deeper into the political rights sector, starting with the electoral process, the president is elected for a term of 6 years and cannot be reelected, but the president can be recalled halfway through the administration. Elections are marked by violence and threats, with, as of now, a final tally of 145 related election deaths. And criminal groups kind of exert lots of power and influence politically. But Mexico's multi-party system features few official restrictions on kind of political organization and activity. But as of now, kind of the issues they're dealing with voting and violations are vote buying, ballot stealing, and misuse of public funds, as those were reported in 2018. Now, moving on to the civil liberties aspect of the score, they have a 35 out of 60. For this one, the religious freedom is protected and it's generally respected. The government doesn't restrict academic freedom, but again, there is that fear of criminal monitoring and violence, and that can be seen basically even with university students and academics, as they're occasionally threatened for their political activism, and also with free and open discussion, as there are no formal impediments to free and open discussion, but because of that fear of the criminal monitoring, a lot of citizens feel restricted in their kind of willingness to converse openly and publicly about certain topics and areas. As far as Mexico's corruption perception index, according to Transparency, they have a score of 31, which means they're pretty highly corrupt. Their score also has gone down 3 since 2012, which means they have gotten more corrupt since 2012. And then finally, for their economic environment, Mexico is the second largest economy in Latin America, but over the last 3 decades, they've underperformed in terms of growth, inclusion, and poverty, kind of compared to similar countries. And Mexico's economic growth averaged just above 2% a year between 1980 and 2018. And now with COVID brought demand and supply shocks to Mexico, and these had deep impacts on firms, employment, and households. As far as the media system in Mexico, Mexico is known as one of the deadliest countries for media, with a ranking of 143 in the 2020 World Press Freedom Index. The security environment for journalists is what really remains challenging. Reporters covering police issues, drug trafficking, official corruption, sensitive political stories, organized crime. They're often met with physical harm. They're often warned, threatened, gunned down, and some of them are abducted and never seen again. And as a result of this, there's been a lot of self-censorship that's increased. And to kind of combat this, in 2012, the former president, Felipe Calderon, created a federal protection mechanism for human rights defenders and journalists. This provided journalists with safe houses, panic buttons, and bodyguards. And they were doing really well with the program. The Committee to Protect Journalists counted 122 journalists in the federal protection scheme in 2017, but the number fell to 27 by 2019. So as of now, it's kind of that same environment of threats to journalists. And then also with the media groups, there's only 2 really media groups that control the broadcast media for Mexico, and those are Televisa and TV Azteca.
Now moving into the technological development of Mexico, starting with the social media penetration rate. Mexico has a social media penetration rate of 64.8%, and it's predicted that in 2021, more than half of the population in Mexico will use social networks, according to Statista, and by 2025, that number will be 95.2 million. An interesting thing about Mexico is that one of their most popular social media networks is Waze, which is actually a GPS app, and this is primarily due to the chaotic traffic jams that occur. Another popular app of theirs is Snapchat, which actually, as of February 2020, Mexico is the country with the largest number of Snapchatters in Latin America, with nearly 15 million. So they use it for entertainment, but they also use it for news, as reportedly news was shared on online platforms by more than half of Mexicans surveyed in March 2019. Primarily, this is through Twitter and Facebook. Twitter plays a huge role, with over 2/3 of its users in Mexico saying they adopted the platform to be informed. And then also with Facebook, at least 6 out of 10 internet users aged 18 or older in Mexico stated that they used Facebook to stay informed as well. Now, for literacy rate, Mexico has a literacy rate of 95.38%, and the literacy rate measures the percentage of people ages 15 and above who can read and write. And then finally, for internet penetration rate, Mexico has an internet penetration rate of 71%. The online population in Mexico had already been steadily increasing in recent years, but it really reached new heights with the coronavirus pandemic. And as of 2021, Mexico now has more than 90 million internet users, even though with 90 million, they are still fall behind a dozen Latin America economies. And then a main reason for this is about 50% of Mexican households were estimated to be equipped with internet access. And then, according to a survey from Statista, the primary reason why households did not have the service was a lack of financial resources. And then just an interesting tidbit about the internet usage is that the preferred internet browsing device for 9 out of 10 users, according to a 2020 survey, was the mobile phone. And by the end of the year, the country is expected to have over 84 million mobile internet users. Now moving on to Hofstede's cultural dimensions. These allow us to kind of get a good overview of the deep drivers of Mexican cultures, and these were derived from Hofstede Insights. Starting with power distance, Mexico has a score of 81, which means they are a hierarchical society, and that means people accept a hierarchy order in which everybody has a place and it needs no further justification. Moving on to individualism, they have a score of 30, which means that they are considered a collectivist society, which means they really value that group setting. For masculinity, with a score of 69, that means that they are a masculine society. And in masculine societies, people live in order to work, managers are expected to be decisive and assertive, and conflicts are resolved by fighting them out. And for uncertainty avoidance, with a score of 82, Mexico has a very high preference for avoiding uncertainty. In these kind of cultures, there's emotional need for rules, time is money, people have an urge to be busy, work hard, and security is an important element in individual motivation. And then for long-term orientation, Mexico has a low score of 24, which means that their culture is normative. People in these societies have a strong concern with establishing the absolute truth, and they are also normative in their thinking. They exhibit great respect for traditions, and they have a focus on achieving quick results. And then finally, for indulgence, which is Mexico's highest score, with a high score of 97, means that they have a definite tendency towards indulgence. People in these societies exhibit a willingness to release their impulses and really enjoy life and have fun. They possess a positive attitude and have a tendency towards optimism. And they also place a higher degree of importance on leisure and act as they please and spend money as they wish.
Now I will talk about the campaign entitled Refrescosas PepsiCo started to help their soda brand 7-Up. In 2018, Pepsico Latin America teamed up with PR agency Impero to launch a campaign entitled Refrescosas that was released across Latin American markets. Refrescosas means refreshing things in Spanish. This was an online digital campaign that began to heat up at the start of summer. Therefore, some of the key themes surrounded refreshing beverages in summer. Additionally, this was a social media campaign, so it tackled themes of video content and digital advertising. Finally, the main message displayed across the entire campaign was, how do you transform an everyday product into a social media sensation? 7-Up's latest campaign can point you in the right direction. #Refrescosas. PepsiCo had one main goal at the start, and that was to create a concept that reflected the values of the brand while being broad enough to create several pieces of content that the region could incorporate into its local calendars. Therefore, it came up with the idea of a campaign with the objective to show off the brand without falling into the classic photo product trap, and that would also allow improvement over channels engagement across the markets. In order to start a campaign that doesn't fall into the classic photo product trap, Pepsi believed that the best strategy to combat this was through social media. Social media is the perfect place to create unique content because there are a multitude of platforms that give you endless opportunities to create content that isn't just images. Pepsi also decided that the posts they create needed to be short, punchy, and beautiful, so that they could be released across channels in primary Latin American markets. There were two main tactics for the campaign. One was to divide it into 4 concepts like miniatures, paper stories, personalities, and animations. Each would have 8 short pieces that could be viewed as either videos or GIFs. The other tactic was to launch these videos and GIFs onto 7-Up social channels across the 8 key Latin American markets, which were Colombia, Venezuela, Uruguay, Mexico, Chile, Dominican Republic, Peru, and Argentina. As I mentioned before, PepsiCo teamed up with Impero to create these short-form videos that were released across 7-Up social channels. They used a few different concepts including miniatures, paper stories, and personalities that showed off the 7-Up soda in a fun, unique way. This way, anybody could quickly and easily watch the videos, understand the meaning, and hopefully crave a refreshing soda after. Here are a few screen grabs from the different video concepts. Graphics 1 and 4 demonstrate miniatures, Graphics 3 and 5 demonstrate personalities, and Graphic 2 demonstrates paper stories. Social media was the most important aspect of this entire campaign. Therefore, the media channels used were 7-Up's Instagram and Facebook, as well as Vimeo. While there is no information available for the budget, PepsiCo did invest $4.1 billion in marketing in 2017. Additionally, in 2018, it announced it would increase spending on marketing and advertising. Refrescosas launched in 2018. Therefore, we can infer that some of that money went towards this campaign.
As for primary audiences, according to Statista, the main consumers of soft drinks are adults ages 25 to 34. This is primarily because culturally, being heavier is a sign of wealth. So their parents got used to feeding their kids sodas. This is a habit that has followed most individuals into adulthood. In some areas, soda is almost as cheap as bottled water. Age ranges 35 to 44 and 18 to 24 are close second and thirds. As for secondary audiences, since Mexico's soft drinks are ingrained culturally into civilians' daily lives, it is those individuals that people look up to that encourage the consumption of soft drinks. So this means parents, teachers, grandparents, friends, and other community members. Population-wise, Puebla has the largest population out of these areas at a little over 6.5 million. Chiapas has 5.5 million, Guerrero has 3.5 million, and Oaxaca has about 300,000. Looking at the geographics of the most consumed soft drinks are the poorest regions in Mexico. That is mainly in the south of Mexico in Chiapas, Oaxaca, Puebla, and Guerrero. These are smaller cities in the capital, Mexico City, and slightly more rural. As you can see on the map, these are all regions south of the wealthy region where Mexico City is located. The gender distribution for this graph is relatively equal, with males consuming slightly more than females.
PepsiCo's campaign objectives began with informational objectives, or creating and tailoring the brand's media content to match that of Mexico's culture and any relevant media strategies that were being used at the time. Their attitudinal objectives was to create or change the public perception of the brand and to familiarize it with the Mexican culture. And their behavioral was to reverse sentiments or any associations of the brand that would diminish its value and build up a totally new perception of the brand that would not only differentiate it from the political turmoil and the media that was circulating that at the time, but from other popular brands and other competition in Mexico at the time. And this would drive up its value. Their output objectives were to drive up engagement in the new region and its audience in the first year of implementation, increase their yearly ratings, and increase their sales. Overall, PepsiCo did successfully create and execute a campaign that appealed to the Mexican audience, and it stood out among, like we mentioned before, the political unrest that was going on at the time due to the 2018 presidential elections. They did this by creating new content for their media platforms and tailoring it to what was relevant at the time, as well as being in relation to their campaign slogan, Refrescosas. They kept things lighthearted and refreshing, and it appealed to summertime, which was at the time that the campaign was executed as well. So they were successful.
As stated earlier, 7UP's promotional content was posted on its social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo. Facebook's average number of comments was around 30, the average number of likes was 500, and the posts were shared about 50 times. The comments were also positive, and 7UP often responded to comments and engaged with other social media users. The content on 7UP's Mexico's Instagram mostly featured stop-motion videos and received a few hundred likes, usually somewhere between 300 and 500. It was also viewed about 500 times. Most of the posts on Instagram had either no comments or very few. Overall reception to the campaign on Instagram was positive, with comments discussing that they liked the 7UP brand and wanted collaborations between 7UP and musical artists. Vimeo is the third platform. The videos had an average of 300 views and had about 1 to 2 likes, so overall very little engagement. During the campaign, there were some major current events in Mexico. The most prominent event was the 2018 presidential election. There was a lot of political turmoil on social media, such as false info or misinformation, and the campaign had to stand out from the politics. To do so, the campaign focused on creating short, fun, colorful, and playful content that catches social media users' attention.
In summary, PepsiCo created a public relations campaign in Latin America, and specifically Mexico, with the intention of gaining more attention from younger-aged Latin American consumers. The company wanted to encompass the strategic thinking of the brand while also emphasizing the values and uniqueness of its American 7UP soft drink brand. Thus, the 2018 Refrescosas, or Refreshing Things, public relations campaign was created. 32 short videos were created using stop-motion techniques. These videos included references to time-relevant events and hinted at the local cultures, while also being short, punchy, and creatively beautiful. They were then posted to the company's Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo social media platforms to promote the campaign. These strategies attempted to boost PepsiCo's consumer engagement across Latin American markets by creating personal relationships. Some key takeaways from this campaign was that the understanding of local cultural values and events is the key to success. It was crucial for PepsiCo to not simply create random clips of video with their product included, but to instead craft intentional content that would speak to the specific host audience. However, while from this campaign it can be concluded that it was overall popular among viewers, levels of engagement didn't reflect this popularity. Using solely social media platforms can be limiting for corporations, even if the posted content is specifically crafted. Some specific recommendations that our group has for PepsiCo would be to offer more opportunities for audience engagement. This could include creating an interactive website for consumers to learn more about the campaign and possibly create or submit their own short stop motion videos. This could also include hosting an event for audiences to attend and post about on social media. We also recommend that Pepsico target audiences outside of just Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo. This could mean engagement with potential consumers on Twitter, through television, and radio stations.